never saw them again.
Yeah, but it would be very hard for a big animal to feed in this area, right? Because there's not much.
Oh yeah, there is. You'll see. There's lots of little fishies, and then there's the ducks and the patos and the aves that eat them. So as we get into this part of the lake, the water changes color because we have more nutrition falling in from decaying plant matter. Okay, we have more material falling in to create the chemical soup of life. Because when it comes out from underground, it's pretty much pure water with a heavy calcium level to it, because it's limestone filtered. That's why it's so clear, and there's not a lot of life on that side of the lake. But over here, you start to get more of the grasses that have grown and died, more of the mangrove leaves that fall in, more of the mangrove seeds that fall in, other plants, other insects, other animals that are here are falling in the water, and all that creates the basis of microbial life. And so then we start getting more fish over here than we have on that side of the lake. Plus it's darker water, it's easier for them to hide from predators, so this is going to be the natural habitat they stay in.
Yeah.
And so there's enough here for the turtles to live, the frogs.
Turtles?
Yeah, there's turtles here. Not as many, they've hunted them pretty heavy and eaten them.
But you can see turtles here.
I've seen about 5 or 6 turtles. 2 different species. Yeah, so as we get into the third lagoon, you're going to see that there's a lot more life on this side of the lake than there is back there. A lot more birds.
Yeah.
Different kinds of birds. Water birds are obviously more prevalent over here. Over on that side, you've got the woodland birds and the buntings and the seed eaters and things like that. Here you're going to have the mangrove swallows, the insect eaters, the fish eaters, because that's what this habitat provides. And so I say this is probably a natural canal, the way it turns. Maybe the Mayans helped build it a little bit, but it's not completely straight like that one. And part of why that one's probably so straight is the history of logging in this country, in this part of the country, I should say.
Logging?
Logging, cutting of sawmills, cutting of wood, and then putting them in rafts and taking them out, or using it as a passage. So they would go into that second lagoon and then down to the Rio Hondo in shallow bottom boats. No beck or Ushbenka up at the top, that Parque Ecologico. Great history of Bacalar. Great history because it was a logging camp. And so they've got photos of what was going on in the early 20s and 30s here with the American logging interest, cutting the mahogany and so forth. Really good history. There used to be 3 sawmills in Bacalar. One out where the Doble Domo is, that was a sawmill. And on the other side, where there's this chain link fence building, that was another sawmill. And then right down here where the Municipio Balneario is, called the Aserradero, it was a sawmill. All 3 of those were sawmills, and they were cutting the logs from around here. There's a place called Paradero, and that's where they used to roll logs into the lake down between here and Shulha, between here and the rapids. And then they'd tow them up the lake to the sawmills.
Okay.
And Ushbenka was a sawmill also up at the north end of the lake.
So the lagoon connects with Rio Hondo through Laguna Milagros?
Exactly.
The south part of the lagoon. But then in the north it has
some small channels that my friend has kayaked through to Laguna Chile Verde and then all the way down to Raudales, where I picked him up. And Laguna Guerrero, where Raudales is on, is open into the bay. It's more like a corner of the bay than a real lake. It's a laguna. It's definitely a laguna. And that's where there's manatees in there, because it's so easy for them to move in and out of the bay. And there's what's his name? Danny the manatee? Have you gone to visit Danny?
Yeah. Well, I've never seen it, but I've heard the stories.
You haven't gone to visit Danny?
No.
Oh, I've gone to visit Danny. We were one
Danny?
of the last that got to swim with Danny. They stopped letting that happen.
A manatee, the manatee is like a...
sea cow.
Yeah.
A dugong. You guys don't know what manatees are? They're there's the inspiration for mermaids.
Oh.
Because they have breasts like this. They only have 2, and they feed their babies like this, And so these like crazy sailors, after crossing the oceans into the West Indies, and there's dugongs that were over in the Indian Ocean, and there was also a version that was up north, but that got slaughtered out real quick. Anyway, these three ocean-dwelling mammals that aren't, they're basically a sea cow. I mean, they are not a, they don't swim like fish.
But they are pretty fast.
They're fast, but they